Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rie Bloomfield Organ Series Distinguished Guest Artists. We're truly honored and pleased to welcome tonight the acclaimed duo of organized rhythm, organ and percussion, a duo of musical personalities as improbable and winsome as can be. Clive Driskill-Smith is a British organist born in Oxford, England, who is wry and reserved until he lets loose an astonishing sonic array of effects at the keyboard. He was educated at Eton College and Oxford University in England, winning the 2002 Calgary International Organ Competition in Canada. Before moving to Texas, where he is now the organist and choirmaster at All Saints Episcopal in Fort Worth, he was the organist at Christ Church Cathedral in Oxford, a trustee of the Royal College of Organists, and professor of organ at the Royal Academy of Music in London. Joseph Gramley is a Grammy Award-winning multi-percussionist who provides visual and visceral movement to this duo on stage. He has performed and taught internationally and is a founding member of Yo-Yo Ma's Silk Road Ensemble. After 12 years of leading the percussion department at the University of Michigan, he's now professor of music at Indiana University. They've commissioned many works for their ensemble and do their own arranging. In their concerts and recordings, they creatively explore the wide-ranging tonal aspects of thunderous and dulcet organ pipes, married to the visceral and delicate aspects of a colorful variety of world percussion instruments. This harmonious duo presents what has been described as an exciting musical adventure, offering passion, technical mastery, and precision. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Clive Driskill-Smith and Joseph Gramley in Organized Rhythm. Oh, this is a real pleasure and an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the conversation with the artists. We've never been four up here before, but it's a little intimidating. three faces facing me. But before we start, I have to introduce my colleague, dear colleague, Gerald Shull, professor of percussion here at WSU. Please give him a round, yes. He has, with his students, brought in most of these instruments of percussion. That means a big loading time, and then there's going to be an unloading time after the concert. So it was extremely generous. Thank you immensely.
Yes, we're looking forward to creating a degree in percussion moving here.
Yes.
Actually, we all know that. We get into this field and we know that we actually have to move instruments, and that's just our life.
Well, that's good. You know, organists don't have to do that. We deal with big instruments, but at least we don't have to carry them around or unload or load them. And anyway, this is a chance for the audience, live stream or in person, to get to know the artists. And just a little bit of your backgrounds. Or no, how about starting with when you first started playing together, how it came about?
So about 20 years ago, I gave a concert in London with an English percussionist called Colin Curry, and the concert was in Westminster Abbey, and Colin and I did a huge amount of work in preparing this concert, and after the concert I wanted to do more playing with percussion, more organ percussion music. And it was difficult to find any opportunities in England for some reason. So I was looking at the agency website of the manager that I was with as an organist, and there were lots of organists and one or two choirs, and at the bottom it said Joseph Gramley, multi-percussion. And I thought, well, that's perfect. I wrote an email, dear Mr. Gramley, how about getting together and doing some organ and percussion music? And I think he replied saying, first of all, call me Joe, and yes, let's do it. So that's how it started in about 2003.
Exactly, yeah, and we met up in our manager's office in Hartford, Connecticut, and hit it off immediately, and then had a year of planning of repertoire to figure out a full program. And we had our first concert, I think it was Richmond, Virginia, the year
nice
after
place.
that, so 2002, I think, round about there.
Well, so you've been playing for about 20 years on. You were here, you played in this hall 10 years ago, 2013, so that's a nice memory. Jerry, you and I have played organ and percussion together.
Yes, we have. We had a great concert together.
I don't remember, we played Black Host
Bolcolm.
by Bolcolm. See, the percussionists say
I think
Bolcolm, and
it's
the
by
organists say
Bolcolm.
William Albright.
I think it's Bolcolm, but I think it was written for William Albright. Anyway, they were best friends, and it's an epic piece of music. It's a great too.
Oh, yeah, we did it twice. And you have to be able to turn off the lights completely in this auditorium, and that's kind of difficult to do generally. I think we had some help.
No, we were very lucky. Actually, there was some construction going on, so we were able to do it in the dark.
I thought somebody took a BB gun and that would have been okay.
That's another story.
That's another story. But but organ and percussion, you don't really hear much about duos of that sort. So you're not maybe alone on the market, so to speak, but very nearly.
Yeah, I would actually love to hear what Jerry thinks, but it is an interesting combination. One of the things I like about it is we're on-off with attack, right? And then we're done, unless we're rolling or just trying to sustain, right? Clive is on until he's off.
Well, it's a wind instrument.
You're right. So we have this attack sound, the impact, the front of the sound, and then this great resonance. So I enjoy it. It feels good for me. What did you think of the combo, Jerry?
Well, I've done a bunch actually, because when I was at Boston University, there was an organist there, and we did some premieres of some pieces. And yeah, I think that it's the ability to be able to use instruments like marimba and percussion instruments that you don't have to change dynamically, drastically, because the organ can completely compete with you and actually play much louder than you.
Of course
So,
you can.
yes, and loud is good. And so I think that that's one of the attractions for me of getting a chance to play with organ.
Yes, and on organs, there are lots of orchestral sounding stops, you know, an oboe or a string stop, and reeds, trumpets. But the one thing that's missing from organs is all the percussion instruments. So I think it's a wonderful combination. It kind of completes the whole symphony.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit what these instruments are behind us?
Sure. So the large instrument is a concert marimba, and it's 5 octaves. Next to that is the glockenspiel with the wooden ending frame, and then a vibraphone. They're all mallet keyboard instruments. I also have 3 timpani, and timpani is an instrument that developed with the orchestra. I have an orchestral bass drum and an orchestral tam-tam. Some people will call that a gong. It's a very, very large tam-tam. Then over here I have some hand drums from around the world. I had a darabuka from Pakistan, a daf, which had rings inside, from Uzbekistan. I had a rik, which is a tambourine from Egypt, and I had a pandeiro, which is a tambourine from Brazil. You're going to find these instruments in many, many, many different cultures around the world.
Well, where have you played around the world? You've played in many, many different countries, cities.
Yeah, we've played in many cities around the US, but outside the US, we've played in Russia, in a city called Perm, or Perm. I don't know how the Russians pronounce it. And we've played in Hungary, in Budapest, in the National Concert Hall there. And we've also played in Taipei, Taiwan, twice, in the concert hall there.
How does it work for instruments? Do they have all the instruments there? You obviously can't carry them in your suitcases.
It's different for every show. I'm grateful to Jerry for this. I was
this
able
is
to
an
drive,
immense help, yes.
and I could bring the little instruments. If I fly, I'm very limited. So it's a lot of pre-communication, and then you never know what you're going to get. Percussionists here know that. If you go on a gig, you're at the mercy, you know, of what the presenter has. So this is why I'm so grateful to have WSU's instruments.
Yes, I was just thinking in a similar way, you never really know what the organ is going to be like. And the one I immediately think of is the one I played in Taipei, which we made it work, but it really was it's not the ideal organ for the kind of repertoire that we do, because it's more of a Baroque, classical instrument with very few aids or pistons. So it's a challenge.
So I had a question for you, Joe. You know, obviously you've been trained in the concert percussion world of Juilliard, and is that where you did your undergrad as well?
Undergrad, Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan, that's right. And however, you're so adept in your world percussion, especially the drums you're playing behind us. Did you study with Glenn as well, or?
Yeah, I did. There's a very famous teacher, Glenn Velez, who sort of reinvented the frame drums. So a frame drum is a drum with a shell that's smaller than the diameter of the instrument. Glenn is the master. I studied with Glenn in New York. Believe it or not, one of Jerry's teachers, Vic Firth from the Boston Symphony, used to take summers off at Tanglewood, and Seiji Ozawa, music director, would hire a different timpanist. He hired a friend of mine, John Wire from Nexus. Yeah, of course. And John played all these instruments, and he taught me. I'm very grateful for my mentors. John got me into hand drums, and then, of course, my Western art music classical teachers trained me to be in an orchestra, basically. Yeah.
Well, it makes it go. Oh, go ahead.
No. And I was just going to comment, and I'm sure a lot of you out here were listening, that it's the colors that Joe gets out of the instruments, going from the pandero to the rick, and all the different hand drums and the tones that you're pulling out of them. I think that is the beautiful artistry that sharing with us, and just want to thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Because we don't have any idea of what it takes to play these instruments. We would, just tap on them probably, and that wouldn't be enough. But Clive, we've had mentors too. You studied with David Sanger,
Yes.
and others as well.
Yes, my main tutor was David Sanger, who's no longer alive, but he was wonderful. But one of the best things that he told me was that he encouraged me to travel as much as possible to not only play other organs, but also to hear other organists, enter competitions, to not necessarily to win a prize or anything, but to meet other organists and hear other organists. And also, he encouraged me to travel in Europe whenever I could to study with different organists in Europe. So I loved my lessons with Hans Fagius in Copenhagen.
Oh,
I didn't stay there for a long period, but there was a cheap flight from London Stansted
yes,
to Copenhagen.
not far.
And Harold Vogel in Germany. It was just fascinating to study different parts of the repertoire with the masters of that repertoire.
Absolutely.
Such as Italian music with, early Italian music like Frescobaldi with...
Tagliavini?
Oh, well, I met Tagliavini, but it was with Andrea Marcon in Treviso.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
So I had yet another question for you, Joe, which is you're playing pieces like the Aragonaise, which is like one of the big tambourine excerpts that we all learn for orchestral auditions and festivals and things like this. But in general, when you're playing this orchestral music outside of Fanfare for the Common Man, which, as I was saying, I am going to bring it up, the fact that he does it all by himself instead of it being 3 people doing it at one time was incredibly impressive and really musical as well. But I'm just wondering, when you're creating the arrangements, how you decide which instruments you might be using from the actual orchestrated parts from the orchestral piece and where you deviate, and like you're doing the planets coming up.
Right,
so.
right. It's challenging because I want to make the best possible sounds with the orchestral instruments that we train on. Cymbals, bass drum, tambourine, triangle. So I just try to do my best to get as full a sound as possible if I'm doing multiple things. I generally choose the ones I like. Like, I love playing bass drum, so I added a bunch of bass drum stuff. I love playing marimba. It depends on the arrangement. For the Aragonaise, definitely had to have the tambourine. That's a famous part for us. I love the castanets, and I bought a quad castanet machine, which I had never seen before. Just 4 sets on one thing.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, it's about color. I just try to find the best color that I can.
And you do most of your you do arrangements of these pieces yourselves. You work on the organ part, you work on the percussion part, and then you commission works. That's a 2-headed question.
That's right. I think we basically have 3 strands of repertoire. One is pieces written originally for organ and percussion. One is commissions, such as one we're about to hear in the second half, Pluto. We commissioned Stephen Eddins to compose Pluto for us to complement Holst's planets, because Holst didn't write Pluto. I think it was discovered after Holst wrote.
It was discovered and then demoted, I think.
Yeah. And then the third strand are the arrangements of orchestral or popular orchestral classics.
And the Lully, Byrd, Lully.
Oh, yes.
Byrd.
We've just introduced those 2 Renaissance dances, which I think are beautiful. I love them.
Yeah, and there were frame drums and hand drums played back in that time period.
Yes.
So I feel okay joining, and I love the groove parts that I get
How
to
about
play.
the thing around your ankle?
Those are ankle bells.
Echo
Funnily
bells.
enough, they're from India.
Echo bells?
Yeah, ankle bells.
Ankle.
Used for dancers.
Yeah.
So
We could all do that. That would be a good audience.
Next time we're going to bring a
participation.
set for everybody, and we're going to do it, okay?
I wanted to know about the Yo-Yo Ma Silk Road Ensemble.
Sure. It started right about the time that I met Clive. Yo-Yo started an ensemble dedicated to the music from the lands of the Silk Road. Japan, China, Korea, traversing all the Silk Roads, of which there were multiple, ending in Italy, but also at the time, the northwest corner of Spain is Galicia, and it was called the Finisterre, the end of the earth. People thought that was the end of the earth at the time, so Yo-Yo wanted to trace these musics all through the Silk Road. And it was all commissions, all instruments that had never played together before. And we built a body of repertoire, and it was supposed to be it was called the Silk Road Project. It was supposed to be 3 years. It's still going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're very lucky. Yo-Yo stepped away, and now Rhiannon Giddens is the artistic director.
That's fascinating. Finisterre, it's curious because the Finistère in France also means the end of the earth. In England, Land's End. The ends. Every country on that side has its own end of the earth. That's wonderful. Your recordings, we have some for sale out in the lobby, actually, and I'm sure they'll want to get some. But you've made how many recordings together? Oh, and then you've got YouTube.
We do. Well, so, the recording industry is a little strange these days. We had an album. It's on CD right now. And now we have a dance music album, dance music from 5 centuries. Right now it's all on videos. It's on our Instagram and it's on our website. And we're going to put it onto an album. So 2 full recordings and a bunch of single videos.
And the CDs are only $10, I believe. And there are the Beaming Music one is our duo CD, but we also both brought some solo CDs in case you're interested.
Have your students heard your organized rhythm? Because really, you can't get together. You live too far away to practice regularly, so you rehearse at your venues, at your concerts.
Exactly.
So it takes a little bit of time, but have your students heard you?
Not at Indiana University right now. Clive hasn't been there yet. We did the recording there, but it was in the summer, so everyone was gone.
Right.
Hopefully.
But I remember your students in Michigan, heard us.
We played in music school, you have something called a studio class, where the full studio gets together weekly, usually. We played for our studio class up in Ann Arbor.
Yes. And do you have various ensembles, percussion ensemble concerts? What's going on with you right now?
You are so sweet. Yes, we're performing, our next concert is called Classics Rock, coming up on November 20th, where we're actually doing a U.S. premiere of a new arrangement of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Tarkus, the whole first side, the second side of Abbey Road, Olin Johansson, a wonderful guy from the Boston area who did a version of Steely Dan's Asia, and then kind of going backwards in time as far as classics, one of the most important pieces in our repertoire, Ionization, as well as one of the early more tonal pieces by Tom Gager called Gainsborough that is maybe one of the most played ensemble pieces, and so that's happening 7:30 on Monday the 20th.
Wow, that's very impressive. You have similar events, I'm sure, at Indiana.
Yeah, that's a great program.
But this happens to be Wichita State University, so we're
You should all go and support the percussionists.
Yes,
that's an outstanding program, and Ionization, iconic. The Gager, iconic for us. Canonic. We're only 100 years old. These pieces are in it.
Just a few words maybe about your program, anything you want to say about the pieces that you haven't already said?
Well, you'll notice there are quite a lot of dances in the program, such as the Lully and the Byrd in the first half, and the Aragonaise by Bizet. And after the Lully, I decided to play a piece of Buxtehude for various reasons. One, because I don't quite know why, but I get a lot of satisfaction from playing Buxtehude. It
Very
just
well
feels
done,
good.
yes. And it sounds well on this
And it's
organ.
good for this organ, yeah. And it was in a similar key to the preceding piece. So that's how I came up with it. And then in the second half, we start with another dance, the Danse macabre.
Saint-Saëns, yes.
Yeah, and then 2 planets, Pluto and Jupiter.
Oh, wonderful. And didn't you play 17 encores at one spot where you...
We exaggerated.
You exaggerate. Oh, I should know that by now. I mean...
Yes, don't believe
Don't, I
say.
never believe anything you say.
We didn't expect in Russia they would not let us leave, so we played the same encore a couple times. That's all we had.
Be careful. Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
What are your projects you're coming up?
Get this album out, get
Yeah.
all these videos up onto the web, onto the World Wide Web.
Yes, and we're looking forward to as many concerts. We've got our eye on various venues around the country that we would love to perform at. So that's what we're working on at the moment.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's really good to know. Anything else you want to say?
I have to say, I would like a little bit of a shout out to my students who are the ones who are making all the instruments to be here today. So thank you so much for helping out. And it is, this is all Lynne's show, and I'm so honored to get a chance to be on the stage with you, and we'll get a chance, I think, to work again together.
Oh, I certainly hope so. But this is the ideal situation, don't you think? It's
Totally.
And Lynne really is, I'm sure everybody knows, a treasure here at Wichita State, and like one of the most dynamic performers we have. So we're very lucky to have you as our colleagues and friends.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
This is a wonderful pleasure, and I always think it's a little bit for me because I get to see my friends and get to meet other people, and of course my dear colleague. We hardly ever see each other. Thank you, audience, for coming, and here is the second half.
Thanks, Jerry.